to Jamie's story before they did leave. Don't rush off, and the evening is early. But the evening is young, or whatever, it's early. But Jamie has a beautiful story that she wrote about her Christmas Eve in her
Yeah. So this was something, if you had gone to the a wonderful event with the art and everything, we did the reading afterwards. Well, this is the thing I read. So Wally asked if I would mind reading it tonight. So of course I didn't mind reading it tonight. Okay. Anyway, it's called Searching for Bethlehem. It's gone through several revisions because I'm in a writing group. So this is the pared down version. So it's called Searching for Bethlehem. The ride on the back of Dabo Cece's motorcycle with 2 live chickens hanging upside down off each handlebar was the last of the Christmas preparation tasks. This December, shopping for company and the best poultry prices, been passing through freshly harvested peanut and millet fields to 3 different villages. The year before, dinner was a store-bought ham purchased at ShopRite in New Paltz, New York. As I clutched Dabo Cece around his lean waist, clinching with every bump in the hard-packed dirt road that cut through the Gambian bush, I pictured this year's tree. A 2-foot artificial version perched on a table in my one-room abode in Njawara, my Gambian village. Surrounded by Christmas cards taped to the whitewashed wall, it was festooned with ornaments my mother had sent me. Topped with a handmade tinfoil star, there was a hopeful jauntiness to its stance. I'd headed to the Gambia, West Africa as a Peace Corps volunteer in February 1982, eager to help people. After months finding out that although eagerness may be a lovely trait, fitting into a culture different than my own and learning Wolof, the main language of my village, was more difficult than I expected. I was determined to have a Christmas of good cheer and glad tidings. Like one of my Christmas cards that sported a snow scene despite day temperatures that rocket to scorching, I forged onward to make this year's holiday one that felt normal. Dabo Cece, a Muslim, who had suggested shopping in villages known for their less scrawny than most chickens, wasn't the only one who offered help in my quest. Other village friends, also Muslim, had greeted me for weeks with excited salutations of, "Christmas is coming." It didn't matter to them that this was my religious tradition and not theirs. Feeling festive is catching, particularly when it involves something new. For in Njawara, I was the new. Visitors watched my movement with interest, since my pattern as a single 22-year-old woman did not match theirs. Like the times I would head out of the village on foot with my Walkman and a thermos of coffee to find solitude under a tree. As I passed by, they'd ask, "Where are you going?" "Over there," I'd say, pointing vaguely towards the distance. They'd shake their heads and shrug. To Gambians, people are meant to be in packs. Perhaps their interest in my Christmas gathering was a sign of relief that I was not such a social misfit after all. When each Peace Corps friends arrived in my village on Christmas Eve day, there was homesickness in their bones. For some, this was their first Christmas away from family, and the months of living in a culture without the same habits had made their separation pangs greater. Plus, the dry season's landscape was a brittle brown. A winter wonderland wasn't happening. Determined to rouse up cheer, I popped in a Christmas tape as my guests piled sleeping bags and backpacks to one side of my large, one-room, corrugated roof quarters. To the strains of Deck the Halls and Home for the Holidays, we started a system for boiling drinking water and a bath schedule. Getting a crowd bathed when water is hauled from a well by a rope attached to an empty vegetable oil can, and the bathtub is a metal bucket surrounded by a corrugated fence in my backyard, seemed like it might take the bulk of the weekend. During the hubbub, villagers stopped by to greet my friends who were no longer called two Bobs, meaning non-African. In our Peace Corps training, we were given African names by our host families, which sealed a bond between us. In essence, we became part of the Gambia. I had become Ami and Bai. While Christmas Eve day was spent finagling the logistics of how 9 people might fit into my one room, by nightfall, Njawara seemed to transform into a miracle. In a Gambian village, when the sun sets, the world quiets down. The thwack of pestles against hardwood mortars cease when women start pounding grain and sit down to enjoy dinner and a quiet conversation. Goats stop bleating, motorcycles no longer buzz through the town every so often, and the men who visit under cottonwood trees all day, every day, head home. Night in a rural African village holds a quiet coziness of familiarity and mystery. Without street lights and electricity, houses are veiled in the shadows created by kerosene lanterns, candles, and cooking fires. This Christmas Eve, the shadows created a backdrop that hinted at a manger scene. Men in floating caftans, milling animals, palm trees rustling in the breeze, and the humble cement-coated mud brick dwellings look like an Advent picture calendar. I have expected to see wise men and shepherds round a street corner. Thoughts of days filled with trying to fit in, to get something done, to make do with less disappeared. When Mark, a volunteer friend, picked up his guitar to lead us in and out of family compounds, an impromptu performance of Christmas caroling, our feet shushing softly on the dirt street as we walked, the night began its shift to more than us finding our way in the dark. Visitors gathered in delight as we passed out candy and warbled through every carol we could remember. "Ami and bye," said Mama Baja, the woman's equivalent of a village elder, when we piled into her compound. She grabbed my hand firmly between hers, her white teeth flashed, and her eyes crinkled in a wreath of happiness. As she danced, her elbows and knees bent and swayed in rhythmic angles to our singing. When she bobbed her head, her large gold crescent earrings glinted in the moonlight. My impatience with cultural differences, impatience with the lack of running water and electricity, and the distress over village kindness not being enough to cover up my inadequacies faded with each note and movement. Before we headed back inside to my room for a candlelight light service, and a morning of emptying socks that I had stuffed with Santa's bounty, we stopped in a yard as if in an unspoken design. Circling around each other, we stood silent for a moment, illuminated by stars. Mark strummed and we sang. Our voices, however wobbly, joined in with what felt like perfect pitch. Tomorrow, the heat would build, the dry season dust would continue to settle in every crevice, rounds of water would need to be hauled from the well, and our 4 chickens, far from fat, would be killed by a Muslim male friend. A special blessing whispered above it right before the knife cut, making the meat halal so our Muslim friends could join our feast. But tonight, oh holy night, poured forth. The tree on the table, the cards on the wall, friends who had traveled far hours on unpaved roads to stave off homesickness, and villagers eager to share in traditions not theirs, came together in an instant. In Jawara was Bethlehem. So I'm sure many of you that have similar feelings, when you were back wherever you were on your holidays, working on starving off that homesickness. So, thanks. You're welcome. Thank you. Happy holidays.
And on that note,
you look at this.
On that note, consumerism, because it is the time of the holidays.